Well, well, Mal, thank you. So just a brief synopsis, I guess, of my 12-year career, 12-year plus career, which seems like just the other day, or sometimes it seems like it's been a long time. Hired out with Pan Am November of 2011 as a train dispatcher. Worked up my way to director of train operations, which is what they referred to as their chief dispatcher. Left in 2016, summer of 2016, to go to Keolis, who currently has the contract to operate the MBTA commuter rail. And been dispatching for Keolis on the north side lines since late July of 2016. I currently own the First Trick Valley job, Monday through Friday, which the valley is basically from Tower A to Lowell Junction, out the western route. So Reading, Wilmington Junction. So the program today, we'll take a look at things that currently are going on the old B&M in Greater Massachusetts, as well as some things back when I was at Pan Am. That's the first 80 or so pictures, and then after that, I figured some folks might enjoy a couple of trips I've done in the past year. Out to Western New York, the Livonia, Avon, and Lakeville Railroad short line. A trip down to eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, Iowa, and western Illinois. We're in a bubble here in New England. We sometimes forget there's a lot more to railroading than what's going on here. So to begin, we'll start here October 4th of this past year. CSX, what they call L055, Pan Am used to refer to it as B01, local, with two main central lettered B40-8s and a train of 8 loads by 13 empties for the Coke Works in Everett, pulling into Tower A, interlocking in Boston, to clear off the New Hampshire route. The Coke Works is a very industrialized area of Everett, Chelsea, that used to be home to New England Coke and Fuel, and there's a number of railroad customers over there that get quite a bit of service today. Of course, off to the right here, the upper right, see Boston Sand and Gravel, and on the left you can see Boston Engine Terminal in the far back. And the foreground, which we call the front ladder of Tower A. There's a front ladder and a back ladder. Fairly congested, busy parts of the north side commuter system. Halloween afternoon this past year, another CSX L055 making its way over the 1927 built Highline Bridge, which brings the New Hampshire route over what was the former Boston and Albany route between Beacon Park and Chelsea, as they make their way from Lawrence to Everett with a train for the Coke Works. The Highline Bridge is one of 6 bridges. That's a part of a $109 million bridge replacement project that the MBTA awarded in May of 2019. Out of 6, it is the only one that's still being worked on. The other 5 have been completed. The other 5, 3 of them on the north side, 2 of them on the south side, it was basically one for one. They take out the old bridge, put in the new bridge as part of the Highline Bridge replacement because of the curvature just north of the New Hampshire route coming in. They're relocating the New Hampshire route main line just to the east. There's a couple of pictures here, but let's see here, you might see, well, so there's the old High Line Bridge, the current one, and you can see at the very top of the first scrap car what will be the new High Line Bridge. And the crane and the steel pilings on the lower right are part of the relocation of the New Hampshire route for it.
Is that going to ease the curvature there?
I honestly don't know, but I presume if you're spending $109 million for 6 bridges, I would presume it would. So when BO1 comes over the High Line Bridge, they go into Tower A and then they shove. It's about a 2 mile or so shove over to the Coke Works in Everett. And that's what they're doing here, coming through FX. This is a shot just like the last one. This is from Boston Engine Terminal. The tracks on the lower left would be the New Hampshire route. What we refer to as the eastern route from Tower A is what the train's on. Of course, you got the Leverett connector, the bridge closest to us. The higher one is Route 93. And then you can see the Everett Wynn Encore Casino between the two.
You can also see the Kraft chocolate building.
Yes.
And the bug car that's been just transported somewhere.
Yes. These 2 Bud cars had been sitting there for just over 20 years. April 2003, it was Easter Vigil, the day before Easter. 2003, they were the last 2 BMRRHS up in Billerica. They transported them down to Boston. The plan was to turn them into a crew room, put them on track 12 in North Station. Obviously, those plans never happened. And they just sat there. September of 2022, there was a fire. You can see how that one is nicely burnt. And this past weekend, actually, a week from today, they transported the middle one and then a milk car up to Billerica, where they're hoping to make the Bud car a conference room as part of the new train dispatcher facility. One of the dispatchers I work with joked, right, we're going to leave a nice, warm, new building to go into a refurbished Bud car for a meeting, right? But the Bud car that's been crisped, they did scrap it. I mean, nothing else to do with it. And then just maybe a better view of the 2 High Line bridges, the one we use today and the one that will be used. Now, you can't really talk too much about Boston and freight without talking about Boston Sand and Gravel.
Beautiful shot.
And the Dobo, thank you. I've been wanting to come down and do night photography with the Dobo for a long time. And working day shifts, it's kind of difficult, but I got 4 hours of sleep and decided to head down to town to match up with the crew and see what I can get for some shots. And here they are. It's now BODO, Boston to Dover. They've spotted their loads, pulled out their empties, and now they're in the middle of brake testing them. The bridge off to the upper left is the Leverett connector. Of course, you can see Boston Engine Terminal off to the right. Of course, right below that is the High Line. A lot of changes around Boston. The buildings that are just above the locomotives. A lot of new buildings where old B&M freight yards used to be. Now 2 pharmaceutical companies have them, Bristol Myers Squibb and Sanofi. And just to point out to some folks as well, these 2 white squares in the middle of the tracks, that's part of the PTC system, Positive Train Control. That obviously was mandated by the federal government. So let's go back 10 years ago. I was third trick, District 3. Time was quite different. But here we got Pan Am Southern, train 205, the auto rack train from Sandville back to Norfolk Southern, departing the Willows. Interesting thing about this train, besides the fact that the lead unit is the nickel plate Heritage, is there's one loaded auto rack in this train. No, it wasn't in wrong. No, they didn't decide to ship the cars elsewhere. It was a load of used autos. As a railroad, I mean, what's your job? It's to ship goods for your customers. And obviously, used autos, they weren't, they needed to move them elsewhere to sell them. So use the rail system to do just that. Pan Am POED 25, Portland to East Deerfield 25 was the day that it left Portland. This is, February 26th of 2014. POED westbound through Shirley. And nothing much better to do on a weekend afternoon until I got to go in for work, so you might as well chase the train west. The same POED coming around the curve at Wachusett in West Fitchburg. Steel pilings in the foreground would be for the controlled siding that currently serves the Wachusett station. It's a part of the MBTA $93 million Wachusett extension of the Fitchburg line. I don't have any pictures in the program of what it currently looks like, but for those that have seen it, you think of going from Fitchburg west in the grade you have to get up. I mean, I've had many trains stall on the hill over the years, and notwithstanding that, it's even more of a grade to get up from Wachusett Interlocking, which is around the curve, CPF 333, to get up to the Wachusett station. And then the same train westbound through Westminster, just west of the Interlocking, 335. And in the foreground, bare land here in this picture, but today is home to the MBTA's Wachusett layover. So no more Fitchburg layover at the Fitchburg yard. All those sets are now housed here. March 29th of 2014, GMTX GP40 3005, power for Pan Am Local LA4, tied down on the MS Walker lead at 3rd Ave in Somerville. At the time, MS Walker, which is the building behind the locomotive, took in cars of alcoholic beverage, which are the tank cars off to the left. MS Walker, for those that do not know, is this comes right from their website, a spirits importer and distributor, a spirit bottler, and a national supplier for the wine and spirits industries. And this area has certainly changed in 10 years. As part of the MBTA's Green Line extension project, MS Walker left this facility for one they already had in Reedville, and the Green Line maintenance facility currently resides where MS Walker here used to be. And as we go through the presentation, we'll see where the building used to be and what's there now. Pan Am Railways DJJC, Danville Junction to Jones Chemical, tied down at North Chelmsford. Probably the most unique train that Pan Am ever ran, in my opinion. Jones Chemical in Merrimack took in cars of chemicals that were used in the water treatment and water purification process. And one of those commodities was chlorine. And for those that know your hazardous chemicals, chlorine is a TIH, toxic inhalation hazard. These cars would normally come off the CN out of Quebec to Montreal, where CN would interchange them with the SLR. The SLR would bring them down to Danville. And then I believe it was for insurance purposes that Pan Am would handle these trains in separate moves to head up to Jones Chemical. Now, a couple of things here I want to touch on with this picture. First, UN placards. You know, when we watch trains go by or we see cars, you know, most of us, unless we work for the railroad or we're the shipper or the consignee, or unless it's something obvious like lumber, you know, you really don't know what's being shipped. Well, next time you guys are at a grade crossing and you see a train go by and you see a tank car, you know, you can see the UN numbers, the placards. That'll tell you under federal law, if you're shipping a hazardous material, you need placards on all four sides of the car. I also wanted to mention Lac-Mégantic with this. This was right after Lac-Mégantic. Because of Lac-Mégantic, the federal government, the Federal Railroad Administration issued Emergency Order 28, EO 28 regulations, which were introduced to reduce the chance that a Lac-Mégantic type incident could happen in the U.S. Railroads had to submit to the FRA a list of suitable locations to tie down EO 28, or what sometimes were referred to as key trains, on main lines outside of railroad yards and yard limits. And key trains would be those with 20 or more loaded hazmat, or 1 or more loaded TIH hazmat. Residues and empties do not count. So obviously in Lac-Mégantic, you know, unfortunate what had happened up there, where, you know, train was tied down not properly on the main line, and due to subsequent events that had happened, and where the train was left on a grade, barreled back to Lac-Mégantic, and lack of a better term, blew the town up. Another Pan Am Southern 205, this time a straight slug of empty autos departing the Willows. I had this consist the night before when the crew that made up the train put the power back on the Willows end. They had an hour left to work, and I remember saying, any chance of making the KCS unit lead? And they said, Nate, we're out of time. Okay. Stuff that you don't generally see up here in New England, but always a welcome sight. And that same train on the move through Wachusett. This is April 5th of 2014. This is Pan Am Railways NHB 14, loaded coal train off the NS for Bow, coming through Shirley with a Worcester-based crew. You know, sometimes you find yourself doing non-railroad things and you just, well, happen to do railroad things with those non-railroad things. This is my first helicopter ride across Boston. I've done a couple of them since. But here we are looking at the south limits of Tower A interlocking and North Station. Of course, you can see the Tower A drawbridges and below.
I thought they were gonna take down the old Spalding Rehab building there.
Well, there are plans to expand North Station and add, go back to the 12 tracks. It is unclear to me whether they are actually going to take down that Spalding building, that white one right there. I believe they are not going to be doing that, Carl. They're going to make the track short enough where they won't have to take it down. And from one side of town to the other, CSX's former Beacon Park. This was after the Commonwealth bought the rest of the Worcester Main Line. Of course, Beacon Park Yard for Harvard University and the Grand Junction.
Harvard University is mining all kinds of dirty dirt right there now.
I'm sure there's quite a bit of it.
You mean toxic? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. More than dirty.
What, at Beacon Park?
Yeah.
No, hell no. Nothing's at Beacon Park anymore. This is from up above in Waltham. On the lower left, you got Moody Street crossing, which is a part of Riverview interlocking. Pan Am office car train eastbound over the Millers River
Is Timmy in the Millers River?
in the municipality of Wendell.
At one end and Orange at the, and Irving at the other. I don't know if it was a spoof picture, but there was a picture last week of those two engines with those painted in CSX colors.
I'm sure
Maybe, I don't know.
I'm sure CSX has other things to do than. Now, this is November 13th of 2014, Amtrak Extra 822, what we called the Joe Boardman Special, flying eastbound through Lawrence. Talk at the time of Amtrak extending the Downeaster service to Rockland. And this train was run into Brunswick via the Conn River to look at the possible extension, which obviously did not happen.
Will it happen next summer?
No,
No.
Amtrak's not going to Rockland. This is East Newport, Maine, on the former Maine Central. This is eastbound WA&M, Waterville to Northern Maine Junction. This is November 18th of 2015. The next two pictures are some of the few pictures I ever took when I was chiefing at Pan Am. You work 12 hours, 12-hour shifts, you get off. The last thing you want to do is deal with your work life outside of work. This particular time at Pan Am, we were not interchanging with the NBSR at Mattawamkeag. They worked the deal with the NBSR and CMQ that we would bring the NBSR traffic to Northern Maine Junction. CMQ would bring it to Brownville Junction, and then the NBSR would bring it from there to St. John, and vice versa. And obviously that has just come to a close. Last month was CSX's first train to Mattawamkeag for NBSR traffic.
Oh, that came back. You didn't interchange that traffic.
There is a very, very large amount of interchange traffic now for the NBSR.
No, the first train they didn't accept. It had to come back at CP.
Of course. course. Yeah. But at the time, the only reason to go to Mattawamkeag was Permatreat, which coincidentally is also owned by Tim Mellon, a railroad tie recycling plant. And here's the Northern Maine Junction local NM1 switching it. The track to the far left is the NBSR main line, Brownville to St. John. Let's see here. This would be MBTA GP18 904 on the wash train, sitting on the Valley track at Boston Engine Terminal in Somerville. This is November 12th of 2016. Every fall, whoever the commuter rail contractor for the MBTA is, usually run a pair of wash trains, one north, one south, to pressure wash the rails to clean off leaves. Leaves can cause slippery rail conditions, as well as black rail conditions, which are not good. It's certainly a safety hazard. And with upgrades in technology, who knows how much longer wash trains are going to be run. I know Metro North has come out with a laser train to, I guess, zap the leaves off the rails. And I know that's something that the MBTA has been looking at as well. Keolis work train tied down outside of BET, sitting on what's known as the B&A eastbound. At the time, Keolis was leasing the P&W 4003 for power. June 22nd, 2017, this is Amtrak Downeaster 681, coming off the Wildcat at CPW WJ Wilmington Junction in Wilmington, Mass. Upgrading of the signal system and double tracking from CPW WJ to CPFLJ almost complete. In just under 4 months of this photo, 10/20 of 2017, the commuter rail train dispatchers would be given control of up to, but not including, CPFLJ from the Springfield Terminal. At the time, Springfield Terminal, District 2 had control of down to and including CPW WJ. And an updated interlocking at WJ would be put into service early November of 2017. So all those B&M searchlights now long gone. An Amtrak Extra coming off the Grand Junction running track at Swift and onto what's known as the Brick Bottom Lead with a dome lounge called Ocean View in tow to be used in Downeaster service for that coming fall. And we can already start to see some of the Green Line extension work on the left. All that construction over there, of course, used to be where Red Bridge used to cross the Fitchburg. And on pictures coming up, you'll see the new Green Line bridges that they've built. This is Amtrak 695, which this particular day they had engine issues leaving town. The New Hampshire route was shut down because of Green Line work, so they were utilizing the western route to come to and from town. And with the engine issues, the easiest thing they did was run out the Fitchburg route to Swift and come onto the Brick Bottom and then onto the 4th iron out at FX and out the western route to head back home. And here it's crossing 3rd Avenue in Somerville. Same location, but taken from the crossing this time. CSX local B721, pulling up to the 4th iron. With 21 scrap guns for the scrap dealer and the coke works. This was a Sunday through Thursday afternoon job out of Framingham. Would go away shortly after this photo, as CSX will give Pan Am the coke works traffic in exchange for trackage rights to air.
That includes the Chelsea produce?
Yes, everything, which was basically good for the produce, because at the time, you know, the Grand Junction can't handle plate F cars, and now everything that goes to the produce is all plate F, so they're getting larger cars of produce now.
What kind of traffic they doing now?
I mean, it could be better, but I mean, they're still getting cars, so.
Peak season, there was 240 car trains.
Yeah, they're definitely not doing that. Everyone's favorite train coming off the 4th iron and onto the brick bottom lead at what's known as Stewart in Somerville, after making a deadhead trip from Rigby to Boston. A couple things that have gone away since, of course, MS Walker is that building right there. And you might be able to see the top of the rail of, at the time, what was known as the Willie Track, which went up into Yard 8 and Mystic. All gone now because of the Green Line. This is Keolis 1155, March 2nd of 2019, departing Boston for Newburyport, crossing Span 1, Main Line 2 within Tower A, with rebuilt F40 1054 and a GP40 MC 1133 for power. A number of the F40s have been getting rebuilt at Wabtec's facility in Erie, and this was the first one that had come back, and hence the double engine set, just in case there were issues with that one. The 1133 could handle it.
They're being rebuilt at GE. Erie?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting, isn't it?
This is March 31st of 2020, Pan Am's Deerfield wreck outfit, westbound through Shirley, coming back after assisting and cleaning up a derailment in Etna. Wreck trains are becoming a thing of the past. They're not something many railroads currently use. Of course, Pan Am was odd enough that they had 2 up until the very end, one based out of Deerfield, another based out of Waterville. Wreck derailment cleanup is normally contracted out these days with R.J. Corman Group and Hulcher Professional Services, being 2 of the largest providers across the country.
Do they all do that by truck now, Nathaniel?
I mean, you have a derailment, you call them up and they show up.
Okay.
You know. So we'll start with what I first started getting of the Green Line extension. We're here at Swift interlocking, which on the Fitchburg route. A couple of the Green Line bridges. The first one is the line that goes to Union Square. Of course, the one above us is the one that goes to Tufts. Of course, we're looking at a stop signal at Swift on the brick bottom lead. Of course, you can see the restricting signal coming out of the yard. And just around, well, behind that column, you can barely make out the Route 28 overhead bridge. And of course, that's where the Grand Junction running track goes off to the left, head to Beacon Park. And this was stuff I was dealing with every day when I was working terminal. They call up for track time on the Fitchburg to help, get machines across or what have you for the Green Line work. And then looking, well, that column right there, if you go behind it, is that column right there. We're now looking east. And of course you can see BET off to the left. Fitchburg Main Line 1 and 2, and then what we call the Sugar House Cut. And this was out on a road day, so obviously you try to, on road days you can ride trains, you can drive crossings, match up with a road foreman or a track foreman and walk some track, and said, hey, what are the chances of getting on top of the new Green Line bridge? He said, sure, come on up. So here on top of the Green Line bridge, of course, a couple things to point out from here. Obviously, you got the Tobin Bridge, Bunker Hill Monument. And this is 1407. Coming up to Swift Interlocking, east limits of which are right here. And then obviously behind the signals, we were talking about MS Walker earlier. That building is now all gone, and construction of the Green Line maintenance facility has begun.
When did you take this picture?
This is April 15th of 2020. Excuse me.
Almost 4 years ago.
And another view, and of course, during the COVID pandemic and the modified service that the commuter rail was running, we kept extra sets at Boston Engine Terminal. So you got a set on the westbound, got a set on the Valley track. Running out of space after a while. Pan Am Railways FI1, Fitchburg local, shoving an empty from Hood Lumber on the Greenville branch. Alongside, I'm going to botch the name of this brook, but I'm going to try Nonacocious Brook in Air. And for those that might be wondering where the hell I am, if you know Air, the Air Dunkin' Donuts is right behind the train. Gibbons Law Office on 2A, that's that building right there. Pan Am Railways POAY, westbound over Livingston Street in Tewksbury. I'll do something odd with this picture. We'll zoom in to see what are called ENS signs, Emergency Notification System signs. This was implemented by the FRA, I believe it was 2014, that every highway, rail grade crossing in the U.S., whether public or private, has these blue signs that provide information to the public to communicate with the railroad responsible for the crossing and to determine the specific crossing in the event of an emergency. That 1-800 number, that went directly to District 2.
Probably put on hold.
yeah, right. That crossing number, 053732J. Now, Livingston Street only crosses the tracks once in Tewksbury, but if it crossed another 50 times, there would be 50 separate numbers. Back in November in Western Michigan, there was an incident where a individual got his or her vehicle stuck on the grade crossing. And instead of, they're not knowing about these signs or finding them, they called 911 to report that they were stuck on the tracks. 911 in the area was a regional dispatch center who called CSX to report it. The only issue was that it wasn't CSX's track, it was Amtrak's. Amtrak dispatched it, Amtrak maintained it. And by the time CSX or the 911 folks figured out what the hell was going on, the Amtrak Wolverine came by and destroyed the vehicle and tow truck at 100 miles an hour. It derailed the train, injured the engineer and 10 passengers on board. So if you're ever stuck at a grade crossing and there's an issue with it, or you get stuck on the tracks, don't call 911. Call the railroad. And from being a train dispatcher, I would rather hear it from you directly. Figure out where you are, if any trains around or whatever.
Hey, you said this was a federal requirement. Are the signs made by the government or by the railroad themselves?
I have no idea. I know some, this was 2020. Some signs I've seen recently, below the name of the street, they say the railroad.
Yeah.
The one out in Michigan actually had a picture of the blue sign, and Amtrak made note of it in the press release after it had happened, where it actually said Amtrak right on the sign.
That's assuming the driver can read
Yes.
and comprehend.
And that same train westbound over the Fletcher's Bridge in Westford, which brings the railroad over the Stony Brook. This is May 5th, 2020, Pan Am Southern 23K, the Air to Chicago Hotshot Intermodal, westbound past the Fitchburg Yard. Fitchburg. A couple things of intermodal I think folks might be interested in. First off, what's hauled in intermodal? Now I'm talking not just this service, but across the country. You name it, fireworks, clothing, electronics, food products, including frozen foods, canned goods, packaged goods, fresh fruits and vegetables, grains, chemicals, wine, and auto parts, just to name a few. In referencing the Association of American Railroads in 2022, U.S. rail intermodal volume was 13.5 million units. One unit would be one container or one trailer. And about half of that consists of imports and exports. So intermodal is absolutely global in nature. And I do not own Norfolk Southern stock, but I do read their quarterly filings when they come out. The latest NS quarterly filings, Q3 of 2023. Year to date, end of quarter 3 of 2023, Norfolk Southern had shipped 2.8 million intermodal units, receiving $818 per unit in revenue. And intermodal shipments accounted for 56% of shipments on Norfolk Southern.
The off 40 footers?
53s.
Yeah.
Aren't when they say an individual unit, is that a 20? I think that's a 20-footer.
One container or one trailer.
Yeah, they use 20
I think you're right, Carl, we see that.
Excuse me?
now and again. I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that's the
Expressed
standard.
in 20-foot-long units, but regardless, a lot of boxes.
Hell, a lot of boxes, yeah.
And I'll finish up the intermodal subject when I get to the next intermodal train here.
You say that's 56% of their total freight revenue?
Total shipments as of the end of the third quarter 2023. Yeah, coal is, yeah. Westbound POAY, taking the right-hand turn at Old Junction as they continue on the freight main line. A Pan Am Railways POED making its way westbound through CPF 307 in Westford. Another 23K, this time with the NS Monongahela Heritage Unit, westbound through CPF Derby on the Leominster-Lancaster town line. Obviously, many well-known curves along the former Fitchburg Division, South Ashburnham, Zor, and we can also include Derby Curve, the start of which is in the foreground. The same train westbound, shunting and automatic, block signal in orange. Now, just to continue with intermodal really quickly, I think some things that some folks might be interested in hearing. Not looking to start World War III with these comments, but obviously here we're on the Hoosick Tunnel route. And the Hoosick Tunnel, special place in railroad history. But I can't help but wonder the future of the B&M West End with current trends in investment and trends in railroading. And think about this, according to the AAR, again, the Association of American Railroads, containers accounted for 47% of intermodal volume in 1990. In 2019, containers accounted for 92% of intermodal volume. The simple question, why, is a simple answer. Unlike trailers, containers can be double stacked. And the former B&M Hoosick Tunnel hasn't had the investment, nor does it have the clearance to handle double stack containers. And as part of CSX's purchase to buy Pan Am Railways, they made a deal with Norfolk Southern to reroute NS's air to Chicago and Chicago to air intermodal up to 10,000 feet per train over the B&A and up the former WN&P, so those trains can be double stacked. In 2022, CSX started a $466 million project, money from both CSX, the state of Maryland, and a federal grant, to provide additional clearances for the Howard Street Tunnel in Baltimore, to allow for double stack container trains to be transported to and from the port. Prior to these upgrades, the tunnel had a clearance that was 18 inches short of what was needed to accommodate double stacks. So just, intermodal has certainly, the investment needed to make intermodal has certainly raised the service of other commodities. And if you remove your two premium intermodal trains that you're going to spend the investment dollars on a route to maintain, if you remove that, who knows what's going to happen with the West End. So just something to figure.
How much did you say they spent in Baltimore?
$466 million. A couple of south side stuff here. June 5th of 2020, a Keolis welded rail train westbound on the Franklin branch, what used to be part of the New Haven's Midland Division, crossing Seekonk Street in Norfolk, where the New Haven had a station named Highland Lake. And the commuter rail, the state has been trying to upgrade the former Franklin branch. Work is still not completed, but ongoing.
Where's that welding plant on the railroad now? They don't use Billerica anymore, do they?
What?
They don't use the Billerica welding plant, do they?
I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'm going to say no. The same welded rail train a few days later, eastbound on the former B&A, as they make a run from Foxborough to Beacon Park. They hand the train off to the North Side work train crew, seen passing from the town of Natick to Wellesley. Early October of 2020, Keolis 2106. They're running about 30 minutes late in this photo, coming through FX, as seen from the Highline Bridge. And they got MBB car 1528 with a Honoring Our Veterans scheme leading the train. part of the Green Line extension project, the MBTA used a Hurst ballast distribution equipment to dump stone on the new Green Line right-of-way. And the equipment seen coming off the 4th iron at FX, about to duck under the High Line Bridge. Westbound POAY coming through Tewksbury. Milepost 293, passing the Tewksbury runaround. I'll zoom into the marker, even though you can clearly see it says 293 engraved in it. If you look closely, you can see LJ2, Lowell Junction, 2 miles.
Photography is extraordinary.
Thank you, appreciate that. In the foreground, it used to go to Demoulas. And the same train westbound through Lowell, passing through Bleachery. You can see mile marker B25. The freight main line was always mileage from Mattawamkeag to Mechanicville, but in commuter territory, you use mileage from Boston. So here, even though we're about 300 miles from Mattawamkeag, we're 25 miles from North Station. Yes, yep.
I find there today, on the way here, there's not a single car there. Nothing.
You kind of like to see that because that means CSX is moving stuff. Stuff isn't parked.
Correct.
This is Keolis 1309. This is December 29th of 2020. Blasting past the control point at South Lowell. If you ever get off of Route 3 and get onto 495 North, the next exit after Route 3 is Woburn Street. And for a number of years, you could, as you were crossing over the New Hampshire route, you could look south and see the high mast. In just over a month after this photo, South Lowell would be retired for upgrades to the signal system. It's now all cab signal. And South Lowell, essentially a useless interlocking at this point. No need to maintain it. So they just got rid of it. February 11th of 2021, Keolis 1103. This is during the weekday. We were running weekend service on the weekday during the COVID. Eastbound on the Gloucester branch, flying through Pride's Crossing in Beverly. And at the time, work on the Gloucester draw, so trains would terminate at West Gloucester. And I liked the shot that I got at Pride's Crossing so much, I went out the following day back to Beverly, just a little east of Pride's area, known as Paradise Crossover. Got the same train, 1103, headed outbound. And the Searchlight, that's no longer there. Most of the north side is now completely cab signal territory, so no automatics.
Is that why they took the new signals, the signal bridge down in Shirley?
Yes. Yes. And obviously cab signals, the engineer has a thing in the cab that can, it basically acts as the signals in the field would, but instead it's in the cab. A little easier to upgrade, a little easier to maintain. Where am I here? Here we go. Amtrak Downeaster 690, coming through the new ash interlocking in Reading. This is a weekend Green Line extension work, pushed the Downeaster service to the western route. Ash, for a long, long time, even though it was a interlocking, it was not a point of control. You could not, the train dispatcher did not control it. And with upgrades, they finally made Ash a point of control. And you can see Reading Station in the background.
So what would Ash have been, just manual crossovers?
No. I mean, it was just like it looks now. But if you did not control the signal, the train dispatcher did not control the signal. It would be like a automatic block signal.
Oh,
You know, if there was something ahead of it, it would be at a stop signal. If there was nothing ahead of it, it would be a permissive aspect. You could not control that. So. Now, I don't use a 10 millimeter much to shoot trains, but on occasion I find times to do it. This is May 18th of 2022. A joint CSX NEPRA office car train shoves into Boston's North Station over Span 1, Main Line 1. And the purpose of this trip was for CSX and NEPRA brass to get a chance to know each other ahead of CSX's merger with Pan Am. May 22nd, 2023, CSX Manifest M427, westbound from Rigby to Selkirk, passing through Forge Village in Westford. Now we're at May 23rd, 2023. Pan Am Southern's Air to Enola Manifest 11R, pulling into Mechanicville Yard, Mechanicville, New York, as seen from the Zim Smith Trail. This yard costed $40 million to build and was a major part of the NS Pan Am Railways Pan Am Southern joint venture. That was approved by the STB March 10th of 2009. And the tracks in the foreground are that of the Canadian Pacific Kansas City Main Line to Albany.
AKA the old DNH.
Yes. One thing I always noticed about Pan Am Southern trains, stuff to and from NS, they could never keep a symbol. One day we'd be running an empty auto rack train out of air as 205. The next day it was 287 just because NS wanted to. So we go from the pig train being called 22K to now being called 264, the Chicago to Air pig, seen crossing the Hoosick River from Petersburg, New York, and the Pownell, Vermont.
Now it's B100.
I can't keep track anymore. July 1st, this past year, Keolis is fiber train tied down on the Littleton runaround in Littleton, Mass. This train has been used to install PTC fiber cables underground. And this is just east of King Street, where the former B&M station is.
Same costs.
Now, one thing that they found, it really wasn't great for the crew to go out and do work and then shove the train back to the Littleton runaround. So they added this caboose, P&LX 4043, been added to the fiber train as a shoving platform. This is August 12th of this past year.
Who can get used to that calling Dr. Lewis a shoving platform?
And of course, might as well shoot the outbound commuter train from in the area. Here's 1409, absolutely blasting past the fiber train at track speed in Littleton. August 28th of 2023, CSX local LA1, southbound on the New Hampshire route, leaning into Bacon's Curve, just south of Wedgemere in the city of Winchester. Not that I like photographing what some rail fans have called the blobs, because let's be honest, they look extremely unattractive, but if that's what they're going to run, that's what I'll photograph.
We forgive you. Your pictures are glorious. Right.
Thank you. The Keolis fiber train working within a track foreman's line 4. Out of service limits. This is just west of Hills Interlocking in Lincoln. As seen from Route 126. Right around the curve is where Walden Pond is.
You might want to explain what that little signal is to the left of the others.
A seaboard. So that's part of the new cab control, the cab signal system. When cab signals fail, cab signals, if you don't have cab signals, you're basically running blind. And in the normal course of business, cab signals on trains do fail. And when that happens, you put in a seaboard, clear to next interlocking. So if you're ever at an interlocking and there's a green over red, and there's a little blue light next to C, that particular train, the cab signal had failed.
Is it blue or is it lunar?
I call it blue lunar, same thing. B01, the L055 on the Wildcat branch, coming through Clark Street in Wilmington. This particular day, where are we here? Cars for Ty Woburn and Coke Works. Seeing they had work at Ty Woburn, that gave me time to get down and set up this shot. After working Ty Woburn, the L055 B01 back on the move, passing the former platform for Lechmere in Woburn. Lechmere Department Stores, which I believe was headquartered in Cambridge, had a warehouse in Woburn, and workers were able to commute there by train. And even though Lechmere was in the railroad's employee timetable, it was never published in the public schedule. The fiber train westbound, shoving, crossing Wayland and Great Road in Lincoln. And
What are those little white plastic posts now?
so one thing that, and I'm sure it's not just us, I'm sure it's many railroads across the country, I've been told a number of times that people with a GPS that says turn left, instead of going over the grade crossing and turning left, they turn left onto the tracks. So as a way of preventing car access to the railroad right-of-way, they've installed those white posts at all the grade crossings.
And my first encounter with that problem was one winter at Winchester Town, on the third shift Saturday night. Dispatcher called me up about 6 o'clock. He said, "What time did that car go by you?" I said, "What car are you talking about?" He says, "The car that went down from West Bedford all the way to the crossovers to the loop and got stuck."
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. If I had a nickel for every time I heard a story like that, I probably wouldn't be here right now. This is Keolis 211. This is September 22nd this past year. Starting up the High Line from Tower A. Due to signal and track work on the western route, service to and from Boston and Haverhill ran via the New Hampshire Route Wildcat branch. But I wasn't here for this. It was a nice addition to have the MassDOT painted GP40MC. I was here for the B01 L055, and they were using the Guilford painted 507. And here they are starting up the High Line with a slug of empties that came out of the Coke Works. Marty, you asked about and talked about the produce. Well, that's a plate F for you right there, the head one. Plate Fs can hold a lot more traffic than a regular plate C. And these were the kind of cars that, if they were still running over the Grand Junction coming from Framingham, they would not be able to get. CSX M427 pulling them west from Graniteville, Interlocking, and Westford with an oddball SD40 E3 1712 leading, something nice than a GE. The right-of-way on the left was that of the Fitchburg and Lowell Street Railway. And even though you really can't see it, there are abutments on either side that had the Nashua, Acton, and Boston across the Fitchburg and Lowell and the former Stony Brook. Same train coming in there, coming onto the east leg of the Y at CPFAY. Another CSX B01 L055 making its way south on the New Hampshire route, passing the new Green Line station at Ball Square in Somerville, as seen from Broadway overhead bridge. I'll zoom in here. You can see the new, a few years old Tufts Interlocking, which replaced Somerville Junction.
Not much clearance between that building and the abutment for the structure there.
And of course, that same train gets into Tower A, shoves over to the Coke Works. And here they are, shoving past Paul Marks, which is the building on the right. Some people might see Paul Marks trucks. They do dairy and chocolate and, yep.
Butter and eggs.
Yep. And of course, you can see, scrap. The other thing you can't see on the, it's already behind the building, is the loads of cement for Cement Quebec. Another BO1 here, spotting a load of potatoes at BMRRHS Company at the New England Produce Center in Chelsea, Mass. One thing I find, even working in the industry, sometimes you really can't connect what you do in the industry. Sometimes you can't connect with what you see happening in the industry to your own daily life. It's kind of difficult. So I brought a couple props here. Chelsea Creek farms potatoes. Yukon Creamer potatoes is what BMRRHS Company, the brand that they own, which you can actually get at Market Basket. So next time you're at Market Basket, you might be able to buy a bag of potatoes that came in by rail. Scrap dealers out on the water. The produce is... Yes, yeah, oh yeah, yep, scrap dealer is still there. And here, after spotting the load of spuds, here BO1 heads over Bean Street in Everett to go switch the scrap dealer. Obviously you can see the Amazon Everett warehouse to the left and the Tobin Bridge on the upper right above the train. October 10th, 2023, taking a break from Boston area work. BO1 L055 switches out new railroad customer Baker Commodities at the North Billerica facility. Baker has been in Karanko's, what used to be Karanko, in Billerica probably for about 30 years. It's a company headquartered out of California that absolutely deals with the railroad outside of here. And they never, ever used the railroad until now here at this North Billerica facility. Baker takes in used grease and animal fats from area schools, restaurants, nursing homes, etc., and refines it, and then ships out the refined product across the country. And here, after spotting 6 empties, BO1 L055 pulls out a load of refined grease.
That's not Billerica shop area, is it?
Oh no, well north of it. We'll be in the shops here in just a second. So after switching Baker Commodities, back on the move here. Of course, you can see the new, that's the switch to Baker. This is from Town Farm Lane. The building on the right used to be Reardon's, which was a Budweiser distributor. And now we're in Billerica's shop. Certainly a place that is not anywhere near of what it was back in the day. That doesn't mean it's not beneficial or it's not doing well. I mean, there's a number of railroad customers in the Iron Horse Park area that get railroad service on a regular daily basis. And here we got the BO1 spotting loads of lumber at the Greater Boston Transload Spur in Iron Horse Park. This comes off the Union Pacific website, that in 2021, U.S. railroads moved about 420,000 carloads of lumber and wood products. UP says if those 420,000 carloads consisted of all framing lumber, that would be enough to build 2.3 million homes.
Is that the old McQuestion yard right there?
The old McQuestion yard is behind. That's what this spur goes to. You know, when you think about shipping lumber by rail, you know, one center beam is equal to about 4 trucks. So if you're going to ship a load, even if it's from northern Maine down to here, or from Oregon out to here, you're much better off shipping it by rail than you are by truck. Back to Boston Engine Terminal and the BO1 coming over the High Line. And then shoving over to the coke works after.
That's running with D40s pretty much all the time though.
Yeah.
Carl, incorporate that into the 2025 calendar.
That's a great song.
Yeah, I wanted to get down here, and I got down here just before they left, so this was the only picture I could grab. but we got the BODO. They've completed their work. They've tested their empties, and now they've shoved back into Tower A to position themselves to head out the New Hampshire route and Wildcat branch back to Dover.
Truly awesome.
Now moving on to some non-B&M stuff, but I think some would find these find it of interest. I really never done Western New York, and made a trip out there this past fall, including to the Livonia, Avon, and Lakeville Railroad, which was started in the 60s, an old Erie spur, an old Erie line. They run Alcos, and here this is Alco C420 crossing over South Lima Road in Lakeville, New York. Now the one thing about the LA&L, they have a number of customers, but the two that I want to just focus on here, things that you can actually go to Market Basket and buy and support. Here, they're getting loads of corn syrup out of their yard in Avon. Corn syrup used to make Cool Whip, a craft brand, and Cool Whip is only made in one place, and that is at Kraft's factory in Avon, serviced by the LA&L. But as much as I enjoyed watching them switch Kraft, what I was really looking for and got was them switching Barilla. And I brought along with me some boxes of fettuccine and the bow ties. So every single box of Barilla pasta that you can get in Market Basket here in New England comes from their factory here in Avon, New York. Go from pasta to Cheerios. CSX Local L133 switching General Mills at their facility in Buffalo, New York. This facility is where they make Cheerios, Lucky Charms, Chex, and some gold medal flour production is here as well. Going from Western New York to Western Arkansas, CPKC, a southbound unit coal train off the Union Pacific from the Powder River Basin in Wyoming at speed through Mena, Arkansas, on the former KCS main line. And when I mean he was moving, he was moving. Now the Kansas City Southern, they never called their jobs locals, they referred to them as Dodgers. So here's the CPKC Fort Smith Dodger. Local completed their work in Fort Smith and start the trip back to Heavener, Oklahoma, crossing Mill Creek in Fort Smith. Now folks might say, what the hell is Nate showing a picture of 3 KCS painted units to the B&M Historical Society? Well, a former coworker of mine pointed out to me that the middle unit, which is a GP38-2, used to be a former Boston and Maine GP38-2.
Got the hell out of Dodge,
Yes.
literally.
A CPKC empty unit crude oil train, northbound crossing Town Creek and Poteau, Oklahoma. Now, according to the Association of American Railroads, one loaded rail car of crude oil is enough to make about 13,500 gallons of gasoline. Now, I have a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee that has a 20-gallon tank. 13,500 gallons would be the equivalent of filling my tank 675 times. Now, one loaded rail car of crude is also about equal to 650 barrels of oil. Last I checked Wednesday the 10th, 1 barrel of West Texas Intermediate oil was $72. $72 a barrel times 650 barrels per rail car would be about $47,000 worth of product in one rail car. That CPKC Fort Smith Dodger tying down in Heavener. Of course, Heavener's a division point on the CPKC, going from the Heavener subdivision to the Shreveport subdivision. Loaded grain train after getting a new crew departing Heavener south. And according to the AAR, I'll reference them again, a single rail car can carry enough wheat to produce 250,000 loaves of bread, or enough corn to feed 37,000 chickens for an entire lifetime.
That life can be pretty short.
All right. This is June 28th this past year as part of the CPKC merger. CPKC started to run trains 180, 181, hotshot intermodal auto traffic between Bensonville, Illinois, outside of Chicago, and Monterrey in Mexico, which the railroad refers to as their Mexico Midwest Express. And here, southbound train 180 is just north of downtown Mena, coming up on Polk County Road. Loads of Mexican produce utilize these trains northbound to the U.S. Midwest, and loads of U.S. beet products southbound into Mexico utilize these trains going southbound, along with other products. A couple of other major significance about this CPKC service. First off, for the movement of produce from Mexico into the U.S. Midwest prior to this railroad service was 100% truck. And because of the CPKC, they've gotten some of that onto rail. Second, the U.S.-Mexican border is only open for 16 hours per day for truck and car traffic. Rail traffic going across the border to and from Mexico is open 24/7. And third, as much as other railroads bitched and have complained about this merger, this CPKC service has brought with it competition from other railroads, namely the Canadian National, Union Pacific, and Ferromex's joint venture Falcon Premium Intermodal Service, which they started running shortly after this started. From Arkansas to Iowa, an Iowa interstate, empty ethanol train westbound on the former Rock Island, coming through Tiffin, just west of Iowa City. Because of ethanol's higher alcohol content, ethanol really can't move in pipelines due to its ability to corrode steel. So according to the AAR, railroads account for 60 to 70% of ethanol movements in a given year. In the Iowa interstate, I mean, this line was left for nothing, and the Iowa interstate has done an absolutely phenomenal job getting traffic and running an excellent service. Same train westbound in Oxford. Going from the Iowa Interstate to the Union Pacific, a Union Pacific local coming out of their short line yard in Des Moines, Iowa. I like the Jeep Grand Cherokee so much. As a rent-a-car on the trip, I bought one. Southbound UP intermodal hotshot, crossing over one of two diamonds over the Norfolk Southern in Des Moines. This one at the control point at Market Street. On the BNSF Transcon, former Santa Fe, Chicago to LA, a westbound empty auto rack train, or a loaded auto rack train crossing the Mississippi, coming into Fort Madison from Illinois. According to the AAR, freight rail moves about 75% of the new cars and light trucks purchased in the United States.
Is that a new bridge? This portion of it, front portion of it looks.
Oh no, this is.
The ancient one that was there?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'll have a hell of a lot more of it behind the trees, off to the left, off to the right. Yep. It was when we were out there. Yes. Let's see here. This is a 100-plus car Canadian Pacific Kansas City Southern grain train snaking around the loop at Bartlett Grain's grain handling facility in Jacksonville, Illinois, on the former Gulf Mobile in Ohio, as it gets loaded with grain destined for Mexico. Opened in the fall of 2013 at a cost of $25 million, has a storage capacity of 2 million bushels of grain. Prior to 2013, this was nothing. Nothing was here. How many people like granola in the morning? This is a UP local coming out of their north yard in Cedar Rapids. They got 4 loads. The tank cars are for interchange for the Canadian National. The hopper car at the tail end is a load of oats for Quaker Oats, which is the building behind the train. And Canadian National, after grabbing those loads from the UP. And I'll end with this, Terminal Railway Association, the hump yard, Madison, Illinois, just outside of East St. Louis. You can see the St. Louis skyline to the right. I'll close by saying this, a lot of things are going on in the railroad industry. Don't just hear the rail fan jargon that's going on out there. Read STB filings. Read what's going on in the news. 10Ks, 10Qs by the railroads. Gives a lot of information on what's going on. And I'm looking forward to what's going to be going on in the future. So I'll close with that.
That was terrific, Nathaniel. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you.
I just want to mention one thing. You had noted Jones Chemical.
Jones, yes.
My company used to do a lot of business at Jones, at the Merrimack, the old Merrimack passenger station. And they would bring in tank cars of something called caustic soda. Don't worry about what it is. And tank cars of something called chlorine. Don't worry about that either. You mix them together, and you get something called bleach. We all know what bleach is. And bleach goes into all municipal drinking water to keep us healthy. And Jones,
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're a fantastic speaker.
of drinking water bleach. Just a little bit, kills whatever's in there, makes you feel healthy. Thank you very much.